working through all the free video tutorials on the Singer Elite ME457 sewing machine. Here we're going to talk about what comes with this machine as for accessories and where can you store them. So on this machine, they've got that great free arm where you can slide that in, plus that little place where you can keep them close by at all times. Now we are getting into how to thread it, how to wind the bobbin, how to use the awesome built-in needle threader. And you can use these videos to see if this is a machine you would like to purchase, or if you already own a machine similar to this, you can follow along. So we're going to be talking about all the ways these knobs are used together and how to get the perfect stitch. So in this machine, first off, when it comes right out of the box, I do see that there is one empty bobbin already in the machine, and then we will put links below where you can buy additional bobbins and needles. That's usually the first thing people always want, is more of those things. And then also, do I have to buy Singer needles? So I'm going to explain more. There is a small pack of needles of just a basic size that comes with this machine. No, you do not have to buy branded Singer needles, but I would recommend that you visit your local sewing machine store. They can help you with needles for the project that you're working on and really make sure you're using the right size for the fabric. We'll be talking about needles throughout these videos as I start to change from different weights of fabric, from heavy fabric to lightweight fabric to stretchy fabric. So again, there'll be links below for you to check out. Bobbins, there are a total of 4 bobbins, so 1, 2, 3, 4. I have found with my students, they usually say that they like to have anywhere from 10 to 20 bobbins for their machine. I know that's, as you get started, it's just nice to have the extra ones, trust me. You start to get into a new color and then you don't want to have to pull thread off that previous bobbin to wind your new color on it. So just buy yourself some extra bobbins. You'll be thankful that you have them. You know what? Let's just jump to this. This is a buttonhole foot. It is a 1-step buttonhole foot, which is a stitch on this machine that you can actually put the button itself right here in the back of the foot. It attaches to the machine. There's another little lever behind the needle threader that pulls down. This allows the machine to see how big that button is and make you the perfect size. So love seeing this included with the machines. The standard presser foot you're going to use for a lot of the stitches that we're going to be going through. There is a zipper foot, and you kind of see that it has kind of 2 places to attach. You'll find that sometimes you need to be on the right side of the zipper, sometimes the left. So depending on what side you're working on, you can just switch it from left to right. So we'll show you also how that works. This is a foot that's adjustable. So this kind of plastic piece here is a guide that you can move left or right. I've been known to use this for blind hems as well as when I do some of the overlock stitches. So it has kind of some multi-purpose uses. There's also a foot that is totally clear, and it is different than the standard foot because it is cut out behind where the needle is going to be creating the stitch. So if you have picked a zigzag and made it really close together like a satin stitch, so it's very heavy and dense when it comes out the back of the machine, this foot has room for that dense stitch. If you just use this foot, there's not the cutout that we're looking for. So again, when we do some of the decorative stitches, I'll be switching to this foot. Plus, I can also see where I'm going because if I'm following an edge, a curve, a corner, I can get exactly where I want it to land, and that needle will be just perfect. We have an extra spool pin. So there's 1 spool pin we'll be using, and then if you're using a twin needle or a different kind of thread, you sometimes will be putting it vertical, and we'll explain the differences, but that will sit there. I usually like to put this little felt pad on there. That keeps the spool itself from like spinning really fast. So usually I'll just kind of leave that all together. Speaking of threading the machine, we're going to be seeing 2 different spool caps in here. So for example, I'm going to be using this thread shortly to thread it up. And you can see that it has a wider end to it. So I'm going to actually be using the wider spool cap. Just make sure that when you slide the spool caps on, that there's no gap between the 2. Like give it a good push and make sure it stays on. That way the thread won't get caught in there. If you're using some smaller spools and they have the smaller ends, then this one is definitely the better choice. I've got 3 more items, actually 4. I'm going to show you This is actually a screwdriver. I know it doesn't look like it, but it will assist for taking these 2 screws out for the throat plate. We'll be showing you how to clean this machine and also a place to oil. Even though oil doesn't come with this machine, there is a place where you can do some lubrication down in this area, and that really just keeps your machine running really, really smooth. But you do need to clean out the lint, the dust. If you've worked with fleece or flannels lately, you know how fluffy they are, and they do gather up and can prevent the machine from sewing correctly if you don't clean those out. So we'll be using that screwdriver to take that out. Usually on this machine, and I do feel it, the screw that's for the needle, you can turn by hand, but if you're having trouble, again, a slight turn with this can make sure that the needle is securely in the machine when you change it. We'll be talking about how often to change needles. That is actually the most important part of a sewing machine, that you always have a fresh new needle in the machine when you get started. If you're having any trouble with the machine for stitches, change the needle before you reach out like, hey, my machine's not working. The first thing I'm going to ask you is, did you put a new needle in? All right, we have a brush and a seam ripper. So take that all the way off, and you can use that as a seam ripper, and it will stay all nicely tucked in. So if you like to keep all your accessories close by at your fingertips, put them in that accessory box. And this piece is a seam guide. So you can actually slide it in behind the foot. There's a little opening where you can slide that in and then set this up. You can set it so you always have the same distance for your fabric to run. So you can just set it here, lower the presser foot, and you can see that we can easily visually guide this fabric and have the seam allowance be sometimes larger than what the actual lines are shown on the throat plate here. So that's a nice little addition. It slides in. It's kind of tough, so it doesn't move around as you sew, and you can adjust it where you want. It's kind of like training wheels for your sewing machine. The last thing is the dust cover. So I know this is just a really simple cover. Maybe you want to make your own. Maybe play with the decorative stitches once I show you. But the idea of covering your machine when you're not using it, especially if you're leaving it out, and especially if you have pets, there's a lot of openings here, and some of that lint and dust just from sewing in general will kind of start to find its way inside. If you can keep it covered, it's just going to be better long term. So if this video has been helpful, make sure you click right here to subscribe. That's your way of saying thank you, and these have been helpful for you. And we're going to have a link below to all the videos, the complete playlist, so you can start at the beginning and master this machine from beginning to end.